Hello and welcome back to 365 Days with mxmtoon. I'm Maia, a singer, songwriter, videomaker, Oakland native, and a feminist. I'm also a huge fan of history. I love untold stories, gross facts, hidden secrets, and anything weird, dark, and funky from the past. Each day I'm going to share one of my favorite deep cuts with you, so let's take a look at today's stories.
It's 365 with mxmtoon. New facts every day, so don't leave too soon. I'm gonna teach you stuff, no it won't be tough. Gonna go a year till you've had enough. It's 365 mxmtoon.
Today, in 1979, the Susan B. Anthony dollar coin was issued, marking the first time a woman was honored on a U.S. coin. In the 1800s, Anthony dedicated her life to activism, fighting to abolish slavery and earn women the right to vote. Honoring her work toward equality for all, the coin was only produced from 1979 to 1981 and then again for a year in 1999. It all started in 1971. Between that year and 1978, the United States Mint produced a dollar coin featuring President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who held the highest office in the country between 1953 and 1961. The back of the coin, which stayed the same when the Anthony dollar was introduced, honored the 1969 Apollo 11 space mission, when humans landed on the moon for the first time. The Eisenhower dollar looked confusingly like a quarter, which features the inaugural President George Washington. Though the quarter is about an inch in diameter, while the Eisenhower dollar was almost an inch and a half. The coin still didn't really catch on, although some Las Vegas casinos used them in place of tokens. So by 1977, the U.S. Mint began plans to make Susan B. Anthony her own dollar, which would be smaller. The Mint printed about 1.5 billion coins, but again, the Anthony dollar coin didn't catch on. That's because the coin was almost about the same shape, size, and color as the quarter, so consumers found it confusing, and vending machines didn't work well with them. In 1997, the Mint tried again, printing a gold dollar coin that honors Sacagawea, the Native American woman who helped those two famous white dudes, Lewis and Clark, trek to the Pacific Ocean. Over 1 billion were first printed, but once again, American consumers just didn't want to use dollar coins. The Sacagawea dollar is still in circulation, and the U.S. Mint still prints about 2 to 3 million a year, but those are mostly viewed as collector's items. When was the last time you bought something with a dollar coin? I, for one, actually believe my father has collected a bunch of dollar coins, and the Sacagawea dollar coin is still one of the ones that he showed me when I was younger. So, it runs in the family. Speaking of collector's items, people have been collecting coins for as long as coins have been minted. There's evidence from ancient Rome that people collected unique coins as small treasures. So you might be wondering, is the Susan B. Anthony coin a hit among collectors? Not really, unfortunately. You can find them for sale for less than $5. So while Susan B. Anthony's coin might not be worth much, the work she did during her life definitely was. Rather than dwelling on the sad, continuous failure of the U.S. Mint to get us to use dollar coins, let's look at some highlights of Anthony's activism. As far as generations go, Gen Z is pretty socially engaged, but if you thought we invented youth activism, you're dead wrong. In 1837, when Susan B. Anthony was just 17 years old, she spent her time collecting signatures on petitions to end slavery. She was committed to this goal for decades. In 1856, she became the New York State agent for the American Anti-Slavery Society. As an activist, Anthony ran in the same circles as Elizabeth Cady Stanton, another prominent woman in activism. In 1863, they founded the Women's Loyal National League, and together they ended up collecting almost 400,000 signatures in favor of abolition. Those numbers would be impressive today, and we have the internet. Imagine doing that solely through in-person canvassing. It wouldn't be until 1865, when Anthony was 46 years old, that slavery was abolished in the U.S. She spent almost 30 years campaigning for what she knew was right, but she wasn't even done there. Just a few years after the end of the Civil War, Stanton and Anthony started publishing a women's rights newspaper called The Revolution. Before the abolition of slavery, activists like Frederick Douglass and William Lloyd Garrison started newspapers like the North Star and the Liberator, too. This was a great way to disseminate information. And as the Revolution paper circulated, Stanton and Anthony founded the National Women's Suffrage Association. Suffrage means the right to vote, and up until 1920, women couldn't vote in America. In 1872, Anthony defied the law and voted anyway. She was arrested, and she refused to pay the fine. But authorities took no further action. For the rest of her life, Susan B. Anthony continued to fight for women's right to vote. but she died at the age of 86 in 1906, just 14 years before she would have been able to make her voice heard at the polls without being arrested. We might not celebrate her legacy on the dollar coin anymore, but every time we go to the polls to vote, we honor her work. Whether you have an election coming up near you or not, it's always a good time to make sure you're registered to vote. Or if you've moved since last time you voted, you can update your address. Visit vote.gov to learn how. Now let's talk about music. Today, in 1962, guitar legend Jimi Hendrix was honorably discharged from the Army. By the time he was 19, he had been caught riding in stolen cars twice. He was given an ultimatum: join the Army or go to prison. So, he enlisted, but he didn't want to be there. He wrote in a letter to his father that, quote, "There is nothing but physical training and harassment here." He convinced his dad to mail him his guitar, which he began playing obsessively to cope with the strain of basic training. His heart wasn't in it, so he wasn't a very good soldier. He took naps on the job, and honestly, that's a great way to stick it to the man. In the end, his sergeant just didn't want to deal with him and his bad behavior. The sergeant wrote, "The military service will benefit if he is discharged as soon as possible." He only served about a year of his 3-year commitment, but he ended up being honorably discharged. And now for today's final segment, I'll be going back into my own photo archives to see what I was up to on a July 2nd in my life. July 2nd, 2018, I got my 23andMe results to see what my ancestry composition is. Does Mark Zuckerberg's wife own all of my genetic information now? Yes. Is that preferable? Probably not, but I did find out that I got some pretty cool genes going on inside of my body. I do know that I'm half Chinese and half white, but they broke it down to like some more specifics, and I found out that I have some Vietnamese and Thai in me, which was interesting. And my grandma swears it's not her. She put all the blame on top of my grandpa, so I'll have to take it up in a conversation with him later on. I also found out that I have a genetic muscle composition of an elite power athlete, of which I don't utilize, but I did recently start going to the gym. Although that was one of the most difficult days of my entire life, I hope that this genetic composition inside of me will help me get through the future visits I have in the coming weeks and months. But yeah, 23andMe, it like gives you new reports and stuff on your genes every once in a while. It's very interesting. I feel like I've learned a little bit about myself, although I'm very thankful to know quite a bit already. But it was very cool and exciting the day that I got it. And my brother and I can look at it and kind of pretty much have the same answers for every question we might have, anyways. Thanks for going back in time with me. And remember to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can come back tomorrow for more stories from the past.
It's 365 with mxmtoon. New facts every day, so don't leave too soon. I'm gonna teach you stuff, no it won't be tough. Gonna go a year till you've had enough. It's 365